Well, first of all, on behalf of my family, on behalf of myself, and on behalf of my entire family, I want to say how overwhelmed I am to see how many people have turned out. I mean, it is an unbelievable tribute to my mother, and I know that if she were here in such a way that she could, that she could see all of you, she would be so flattered. But the truth is, this is really not her thing. I think I remember, a few years ago when her 60th birthday was approaching, and a certain cousin, or cousins, who I won't name here, called me with the incredibly well-intentioned idea of planning a surprise party for her. We talked a bit about it. I remember we even started to plan maybe where we would do it, and how we might deceive her to get her into position. And the next night, my father called, and he said, "Don't do it." And at first, I didn't even know what he was talking about at first. But he goes, "Seriously, don't do it. I mean, she loves you, but she will hate this." And he meant not the surprise, but the recognition, because for my mother, being the life of the party meant planning the party for someone else. She took more pride and joy in the effort to honor someone who she greatly respected than could ever be heaped on her by others. And everyone here knows her resume, her long list of volunteer involvements, her gift of leadership and for helping others realize their own gifts. She was an incredible mentor to many and a confidant to her closest friends and colleagues and her family. And I will let others speak to that who know her primarily in that capacity. But these are some of the images and incidents of that part of her that I remember from growing up in her house. Papers piled high on the kitchen table, waking to the sound of her business-like voice on the phone, file folders piled high in the laundry room, the glow from the kitchen light late into the night, notebooks piled high in the back of her car. It wasn't pretty, but as I got older, I realized that what I was witnessing here was ultimately was a model of selfless service. And I say selfless because she never sacrificed me or my father for her ends. It was the opposite. I always felt like I was her most important project. Despite the fact that she had a million things going on all the time, she was at every school event, every play, every Cub Scout meeting, in part because she was the den mother. And the first time my parents visited me at college, I remember my father reminded me of this last night. She went to the alumni office on campus to ask why they didn't have a local alumni club here in Kansas City. And then after she was done with that, she went to Hillel and asked why they weren't doing more fundraising in our area. So I could always look to my mother as my first advocate and my last line of defense. And throughout all of this, I mean, she would also hate the idea that she would somehow be lionized or something. She, of course, had her normal human quirks. I would watch as she strived to be the hip mom when my friends and I would come home from college, stocking the fridge with illicit substances like Bud Light and Zima. This is when Zima was cool. It was for like 1 week in March of 1994. It was cool. And on Sundays, she would make me pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse, long after I was too old to think that was cool. And then again, when I was old enough to think that it was sweet. She took very smug pride in her electric blue 1968 Pontiac Le Mans convertible, knowing that every time she drove it to the grocery store, some stranger would offer to buy it. And she had no patience for people who didn't follow through, no tolerance for political or professional incompetence, no clemency for a stupid holding penalty on third down. But I never ever heard her speak of getting credit for something. And while she was always taking on more responsibility, she never sought out honor or status for that. It is simply not her fault that she was eventually asked to serve as president of any and every organization she joined. In recent years, it had almost become a joke in our family, that my father would have retired several years earlier, but really what was the point, as long as my mother was still working every day? And with each passing year, I remember there was always another false alarm as each gig, you know, the JCC, Beth Shalom, the Jewish Heritage Foundation, each one promised to be her last, but something else always came along. There was always another project, you know, for better or worse, she seemed unstoppable. So, to anyone, therefore, who did not have the pleasure and honor of being in the room with her the last weeks of her life, by the way, I don't know what the over-under is on me getting through this, but it should be like right here. It all seems like, it all seems like it ended very fast, and it did. But on the night that we learned from the doctor that our fight would now require a different final effort, she told me, "I'm not done taking care of you." And in those last days, as her health declined almost by the hour, she continued to give me amazing and unexpected gifts, and my father as well. She gave us the time and the space that I needed to come to terms with the pending new reality, the gift of purpose, the permission that I needed not to worry about anything else. I learned caregiving skills that I will apply in one way or another to the rest of my life. She gave me a new unbreakable bond with my father. And most of all, I was given the chance to begin to repay in some small way all that my mother and father have given me. And I knew that my mother would never leave until she knew that I was ready to handle it, and until I knew that she was also ready. A couple of nights ago, I was with her when she woke up in the middle of the night. By this point, her disease had left her mostly confused and disoriented. But she seemed coherent, you know, very frustrated, but very clear. And she looked at me, and I'll be honest, she was almost crying, and she said, "Victor, I wish I had a new project. I need a new project." Now, I know it could be easy, you know, to see this last unsettled episode as, I don't know, as the regret of someone who wasn't ready to go, someone who had, you know, too much still to do here, and someone who was, frankly, so used to being in control that she was trying one last time in vain to regain it. But my mother, especially over the last several years, you know, fell in love with Jewish learning. And so she would know that in Judaism, you know, very little energy is really given to speculating about what happens after this life. In Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of Our Fathers, it says, "Better 1 hour in good deeds in this world than all the life in the world to come. And better 1 hour of tranquility of spirit in the world to come than all the life in this world." So only someone who realizes that it is the deeds we do here that matter more could ever be prepared to reach that tranquility of spirit. Only someone, you know, who goes toward the next world in protest deserves to find rest when they get there. Which is not to say, Mom, that you are resting. I know that you are out there looking for your next project, or as your cousin Paul put it, she's organizing the angels. So, Mom, until the day comes when you will ultimately take care of me again, I will miss you terribly and feel your absence. And I am so sorry that this wasn't funnier. You know, but I guess that's what happens when you're not here to edit my stuff. And I don't know, I may have read parts of it too fast. I remember my bar mitzvah speech. She'd written slow, like at the top of every note card. But so yes, I will miss you terribly and feel your absence. But for now, we will always have your love and your deeds. Those you left with us. Oh, I'm like 2 lines away. All right. Those you left with us, but more importantly, all of those that you left undone. Because as tough as it is, the void you leave in this life, that we can now aspire to fill with our own deeds, is your greatest gift of all.